Christine, that was adorable. Samantha, where is Samantha? Please stand up. Samantha, that was great. Your presentation, wasn't that wonderful? Her presentation was wonderful. Oh my Lord. Holy cow. Well, I'm excited to be here. I was here 4 or 5 years ago. One of my best friends is Brad Beasley. And his son Chris, who's in the audience here, I came for his graduation. Actually, I also attended several of Chris's basketball games. So to come back and be in here is an honor for myself as well. I didn't know 4 or 5 years ago that I'd be here addressing you today. And Christine, because of you, I am here. There's a couple points I'd like to make and talk to the graduating class about and the parents as well. Number one, every parent and every teacher in here will understand 100% what I'm going to say first. And you may be challenged by this. But as Samantha said, that's where we grow, right? Being challenged by our beliefs, going above and beyond what we think to be true. So you guys will be challenged. You know what I'm going to say. The second point, I will bring up several individuals that I've interviewed over the past 25 to 30 years to prove this to be true. Many names that you know, and some that you may not. Point number one, listen closely. 90% of what your parents tell you is the absolute truth. Isn't that true? 90%. Oh my gosh, how do I know this to be fact? At 33 years of age, I woke up one day and something clicked. Please don't wait that long. Something clicked and I said, you know, everything my parents have told me since I was a little kid is turning out to be true. Finish your peas. To be healthy. Don't do this, do that. But you know, we need to grow. We need to, as a matter of fact, David, in your presentation, you talked about that wisdom comes through failure. And it can, but you can shortcut it just by listening to what they're saying. Can I get an amen? It's so true. We don't have to go through all the trials and tribulations unless we absolutely want to. And so I chose till 33. And on the age of 33, I called my mom and dad and I said, you guys are amazing. And the response on the end of the other phone was absolute silence. Because then they said, well, of course. How did it take you so long to know? And to this day, my parents, I'm so blessed they're still with me. To this day, I listen to their wisdom. I don't always take it, and the times that I don't, I find myself coming back and saying, you guys were right again. So think about that. The second point that I would like to make is this, is that life owes us nothing. It doesn't matter how smart we think we are or what we think the world owes us. Life owes us not a thing. But on the flip side, life will give us everything if we're willing to do two things. Whatever it takes, and for as long as it takes, to create the existence that moves our soul. Not the existence that someone else thinks moves our soul, but the existence that we think moves our soul. So let me share some examples. Joe Cerulli is my mentor. Last year he was on the cover of Inc. magazine. I'm going to fast forward to today. Joe Cerulli is a multimillionaire, private plane, multiple homes in different areas of the country. He's made his millions of dollars in an industry that people say would never work, and that is the health club industry. That's fast forward to today. He is a man of the most incredible integrity, honesty, and friendship that I have ever met. He's off the charts. This all started, though, when Joe was homeless. A high school education, living in Gainesville, Florida, living in his car, and then in an abandoned building. And 3 weeks ago, I had Joe on my XM satellite radio show, and I said, what was the turning point? What was the time that you knew that if you did whatever it took for as long as it took, life would give you back more than you could ever imagine possible? And he said, that's really easy. In Gainesville, homeless, I walked into a McDonald's. I was going to treat myself to the one thing I would eat that day, and it happened to be a drink, a Diet Coke. I go into the restaurant, I walked up to the counter, reached into my dirty pants pockets with my dirty fingers, pulled out all the money to my name and put it on the counter. The woman looked at me and she said, this is how long ago this was, the Diet Coke cost 16 cents. She said, there's 13 cents there. Please remove your money and yourself from our store. To which Joe, embarrassed more than he'd ever been in his life, grabbed the change, walked out, but here was the defining moment. When he got outside, he opened the door, and he doesn't even know how and why he did this. He looked up at the sky, and he said, God, I will never be here again. He decided in that moment that was a turning point, a frustration, a failure. It could be in school. Tony was telling me about his pre-med experience. I had a pre-med experience. It didn't work. And yet I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it did work, and that's a blessing. So Joe took this outrageous, embarrassing experience, and he walked out. He said, I will never do this again. Within 12 months, Joe had amassed $100,000 in his bank account, legally, selling health club memberships. And to this day, if you Google Gainesville Health and Fitness Center in Gainesville, Florida, you will see he owns 3 facilities, one a 90,000 square foot health club in a city of 150,000 people. And he is the success he is today because of that experience. Nelson Mandela. We all know the story. You all know the story. 27 years in prison. When asked, what was the turning point in your existence, he said, that's really easy to tell you. Within the first year of knowing I had a 27-year prison sentence, I went up to the white African guards and started to befriend them. I started to learn the language called Afrikaans. And when I came back into my cell, the other political party members who were with me, all black, were getting on me constantly. Why are you befriending people who put us in prison? And he said quite simply, because I know this. When I get out and become the president of South Africa, I must know both sides of the equation in order to rule effectively. He did whatever it took for 27 years to come out to be the president of South Africa. Susie Orman. How many people know the name Susie Orman? Susie Orman, one of the most incredible financial gurus of our day. When I interviewed Susie, I said to her, what was your turning point? What was the day that you knew that you were going to make it and make it for good? And she shared this story. She said, when I first started, it took 10 years as a financial planner for me to be able to make the money I thought I should be making. 10 years, I struggled, 10 years, and in the 10th year it happened. I was doing what I loved. I was making a difference in this world, which I implore that each and every one of you do. Do what you love to make a difference in this world. And I decided to do something I had never given myself, the gift of a vacation. And I went away. I came back tan, rested, gorgeous, to find out that my office manager had embezzled every penny to my name. And I said, that was the turning point? She said, oh, no, that wasn't the turning point. I struggled for the next year. I could not get my mojo back. I could not get my business back on track until I did one thing. I forgave the office manager 100%. And within 1 year, I had a best-selling book, a radio show, on to going onto television. The lack of forgiveness, the resentment that we might hold sometime in life, we might hold one right now, was the anchor keeping me behind. But the day that I did that forgiveness, that act of forgiveness, my life changed, and nothing was ever the same again. Eminem. Now, parents, you might squeam when I tell you this. Eminem, in my belief system, will be known, probably after he passes, as one of the most amazing poets of our day. He is a wordsmith. He is off the charts. Whether you like his selection of words, I'm not here to judge. He's incredible. And when asked, what was his turning point? We think it was he was living in the slums. If you saw the movie 9 Mile, you know the story. Living in the slums, making the money, all of that kind of stuff, right? To him, that not today. Today, that's not it. It wasn't getting out of the slums. It wasn't making the millions of dollars. He says today that his biggest turnaround, doing whatever it took for as long as it took to bring him the freedom of mind and soul, was his recovery from drugs and alcohol. As a man standing before you in grateful recovery from my addiction to cocaine and alcohol, I can tell you it's the most outrageous feeling in the world to be free. And of all the things Eminem could talk about to say that he appreciated, it was his willingness to go into rehab and do whatever it took for as long as it took to find the peace of mind. Last story, and you may know this one. Mike Utley, NFL football player, Detroit Lions. If you've never heard this story, Google it. You can watch interviews of him all over. It's an incredible, incredible story. Mike Utley was a huge defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions. In a freak accident in a football game, he becomes paralyzed. They take him to the hospital, do immediate surgery in order to save his life. He awakens days later. They call the doctor in, and the doctor comes in and says, Mike, you've been through a lot of adversity, but I need to tell you the truth so you can, in your mind, plan the rest of your existence. You are a quadriplegic. The only thing you will ever move from this moment forward is your eyes and your mouth. You will live the rest of your life in a rehabilitation center nursing home, and I want you to start accepting that truth as fact. To which Mike Utley replied, with all due respect, sir, please leave this room right now. I never want to see your face again. Can I get an amen? Mike Utley went on a rehabilitation program where he went to the stretches of the earth to find alternative healing techniques. He said that when he started on his comeback drive, that the work he did in rehabilitation to go from a quadriplegic to a paraplegic and to do some of the stuff I'm going to tell you, which is mind-blowing, was more difficult than his 2-a-day NFL training camps. Within 1 year, he started to get movement in his fingers. And the first thing he asked for was a 5-pound dumbbell. This is a massive man who started working with a 5-pound dumbbell. As soon as he went up to a 10-pound dumbbell, he hired a personal trainer to wheel him to a gym to do whatever he could do. As he continued to progress, one day he sees this gorgeous woman in a gym, and he says to his trainer, hey, is there any way that you can introduce me to her? To which he did, to marry his life partner. When his wife was asked what it was like to be married to a guy in a wheelchair, she said, Mike has never seen the wheelchair, and I don't know what you're talking about. Mike Utley has gone on to dive the Great Barrier Reefs of Australia, jumped out of airplanes, skied the most pristine mountains in Colorado, and he says, the message I'm giving you today is that if we're willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, life will unfold in magical ways before never even imagined. Whew! That's the only thing I'm going to ask you to do, is unravel the life in front of you by doing what it is that you are most outrageously passionate about. Remember, life owes you not a thing. But if you're willing to keep walking through the resistance, it will unfold in magical ways. Your impact on the world will be 10 times what you could ever have imagined it to. And I know you'll do it. May you be blessed. Thank you.